Alright, we're going to start out with kind of a plan for these 4 different types of emails that are based on employee awards. So we're going to, from the employee award object, we're going to create 4 different specific emails, references to those. So we're going to do that in the model, basically creating some links. And then we're going to go in and create the 4 different types of emails. Do the database update, changes for the database. Employee award controller will go in there and add some changes to that to automatically be able to recognize when to generate these emails. And then the email delegate will have the code that we will call that will actually create each of these. I'm going to start out with within OA Builder to create these links, and I'm going to go to the employee award, and I can click on employee award and create a new, I right clicked and then create a new link to email. I just created my link, and then employee award basically has a email, and we're going to call that the first one the nomination email. And we're going to make from the email, email setup on these other guys. I went up to display and turned on all links so I can see what's going on with the emails already. These are the ones that we already have plugged in. And for the one that we just set up, employee award nomination. So an employee award has a nomination email that we're going to send out, and we're just going to call it the nomination email because there's going to be 4 different types, so I have to clarify which each one is. It's a one-to-one relationship. From the email, we don't need a method to be able to go get the nomination. We only need it to work one way, and that's all we need for that one. So I'm going to go ahead and create 2 more links from the email to the employee award. And this one we decided we were going to call the manager notify email. Whoops. Notify email, and then email award. Okay, and it's a one-to-one, and we're not going to need that either. Not going to need that one. Okay, so change the name of this one. Employee e-card expire. It's supposed to be notify. There we go. So there's 2 of them set up. Initially, we need to have an employee get an email for the employee award, and then we also need the manager to get one. There they are, sitting right on top of each other. Okay, so manager notify email, employee award notify. Guess that sounds fine. Just updating my cheat sheet over here. Notify email. tedious. Employee award notify. Okay, manager notify. Okay. So it's that one, and okay, manager notify. Thinking that we change that to okay. Here's what we have for the notifies for a new employee award. We have the first one, which is the employee award. We're going to have a notify. We also need to notify the manager, so they're both named the same. We next need a confirm once the order is in email. So I'll right click here, create a new link, employee award again. So 1-to-1. Let's put that one down with all the other ones here. So there's our third one on the list. And the last one is a new link for employee award shipping. One to one. About when it was shipped. And really, I think it's going to be a mini the mini. Or a one to many. There can be many emails going out. So we want to set this up. Okay. So all the other ones are one-to-one. This one's going to be mini because every time something's shipped, we're going to send them an email about it. So we're going to need to have multiple ones for that. Database, we're going to have a link table to manage that. Because the email is not going to have a reference to those, to the email, to the employee awards for that. So based on this relationship and the fact that we said that we don't want to have a reference from the email to get to the other ones, because the email is just kind of a holder object for all the emails in the whole system. If we have references all over it, it'd get crazy. So it's what OA Builder will do for us automatically is create a link table in there. So all right, so that's the references that we need. What I'm going to look at now is the email types. We'll go ahead and expand that. So if we go to the email types, because we're creating at least 4 new emails to go out from Kathy's list. And so here's email type is the name of the object to describe what the email is. And this is needed so in a program, when we set up a program, a customer's program, Tektronix or whoever, we can go in and customize their whole list of emails. We have to know what type they are, because in our program, each one of these separate processes that we build has to be able to loop through the emails that are set up for the program and be able to find one based on the type. So if I click on type here, and it's a new enum type property, so I can look at the name values, and here's the ones that's already supported, so we need to go ahead and add four more. First one is going to be notify employee award notify, and then we're going to have so in our program we're basically going to have a way to find out which one's which in the program. And our program kind of hard code to say I'm looking for number 6, which really it's going to say I'm looking for the e-card one. So all these will be set up right. We'll look at the generated code for those. Okay, next on our list is the email update. Oh, I said that. It's the database update. And all these changes that we've been making here, if we go to the model tab here, and then we go to the changes, and this is going to show us all the changes that we need to run against our database. So that's what we'll do next. We'll regenerate all the code for it. So the database will be up to sync, the code will be up to sync. So I'm going to verify this and come back, and then we'll go through those steps. Okay, I went in here and just double checked in all of the DDL code for the changes. Go ahead and send those out. What I always do is store in the Hi-Fi project doc derby, and then the next change, and I don't really need the time on there, so saves it there. So that's generated, and if I go back to Hi-Fi, I can look at this doc derby. And what we need to do now is load this in Derby. So I'll go to the command line tool, went to my Derby database directory, run IJ, connect database. Okay, then I'll turn auto commit off, just in case, so I can run it as a transaction. Okay, the next step I'll do usually is I'll just go ahead and cut this out, paste this in here, make sure I don't have any errors. Sometimes I do it in chunks, depends on how involved it is. The DDL generation isn't quite perfected yet, so sometimes I have to kind of doctor it up. So that all looks good, so I can commit that and quit out of there. Done with that. So our database is update. SQL is there. I can go ahead and remove these out of here because I already have it generated for me. Save this. We have our 4 new different emails set up with the email types. So I can go ahead and generate all the Java code now. So that's going to generate our OA object, DAO type stuff. Here's all of our models. And here's the ORM code. update the template. Alright, well, all that's generate compiled, and here's the client running. And if I go down to the different types of email types, basically how these are set up is you can go create new different types of emails. For each one that you pick one of the 8, or whatever it is now, 12, whatever. So for the new ones that we just set up, I need to spell that right, but you can go in, create a new one somewhere, create a new one here, and this is, we're going to call this Employee Award Notify. And basically all I have to do here is say this is Employee Award Notify. So now in our code, what we're going to do is we're going to go to a program. So if we looked at a program, each program that's set up, there's a list of its emails somewhere. Here's a list of all the different emails that they can have be sent out. So they can pick from that list. Since each one in that list, we know what type it is, when our program runs searching for these different emails, is it can know which one to use. So now if we go in here and say, for the employee notify, we're going to say, yes, we want that, so we create it for that. And we can go in here and actually put in the text for it. And there's special tags and stuff that they can put in too for like the participant's name and stuff like that. And what I've been doing is you can set up a generic one with any notes within the different email types. So if I look at the approval, I set up a generic one, again with some template type setup and stuff like that. And what we'll do as we work on this thing is go ahead and see what we want to use. Basically, what these tags will do is automatically dynamically insert data based on, you know, the source or the object that it's that the data is coming from. So for the Inspire, it's driven from the Inspire. We can get the employee, and then we can get the first name. So it's driven by the Inspire approval object. From there, we can get the employee, which is really the manager, and get their first last name, and that's how that's going to put that up there. So for the notify, it's an employee award. So we're going to be able to have something very similar. Again, it's just all based on what's in. So an employee award has an employee, and from employee we can get the first last name. Dear whoever, and it would automatically fill that in. And then when we go up to a program, delete that one out, create a new one here, and when I create the new one, oh, I don't have it in there. I need to set it up so it would automatically put that in there just so we have the starting point. I think what she's been doing now is just going down here and starting out with this template one, so at least she can see the data that she puts in there. But we can put a lot more in here. We're going to want to know what their service award is, so that would look something like award type name, and that would automatically congratulations on your award name, because the award name is going to say 5-year service award or whatever it's going to say, and then they can have all the other stuff. So we can plug in anything we want. We can put in, you know, if we want to reach over and you know, have a line saying your manager must be so proud, or your manager John Doe, and we can get to that by, again, just following from the employee award. We can get to the employee, and then we can get to the parent employee, is what we called it, which is the manager, first name. we want to put the first and last name. Again, if we look at the model under employees right here, we can basically use anything here within employee and follow any reference and then use anything in that object. So that's the deal. That's setting these up. Again, it's going to add it to the list for every program so they can go in and figure out what they want to have in there, and then they can have it customized per each one. The next step is go ahead and create our controller, and basically from our model we have our employee award, and we're going to create a controller for those 4 different emails that we set up. And this is outside of the generated code. Just like our controllers, we have these already. So we're going to create an employee award controller, and its job basically is to recognize when any of these 4 different emails need to go out, and it's then going to call an email delegate. It's in our list of delegates here. And again, an email delegate, its job is to do something based on the object that it represents, and we have an email object. So we'll go in there and have 4 methods or 4 more methods in there to support generating emails for the different situations for the employee award situations. So I'll set that up and come right back. Alright, I just set up a employee award controller, and again its job is basically, what we need to do now is these 4 different emails and send them out. So I started out with Inspire recipient controller just as a base and kind of gutted it out and filled in all the employee award stuff to get it started. So we create that, we start it, and what I have it doing at the start, system starting up, have it running in another thread here, and 4 different types of emails it needs to go ahead and search for. So again, this is at startup, and if we want it, we could have this set up so it would run every hour or something like that to go find all these. But what we're going to do is set this up so initially at a startup, and it will go look for all 4 of them, make sure everything's up to date. So then at that point in time, server's running, it made sure that all the emails are up to date, so to speak. And then what we're going to do is we're going to set up a we're going to set up a listener like we've been talking about with the other stuff. And again, this is just from the other one, so I'll go have to clean this up next. And we're going to listen to certain things within the live system now, kind of like a trigger of when certain things happen, and then we're going to go ahead and basically update the emails again. So I'm going to work on that next, and then I'll be back with that. Kind of get back to this first one I start working on. When it starts up, we're going to go find all of the employee awards that need to have a notify email sent to the employee. So basically what we need to do is we need to select all the employee awards from the database where it doesn't have a notify email. Just like we set up all those references to emails, all we have to do here is just say that it's equal to null, and it will automatically go to the database. It knows the foreign key and will do its thing. And then we're going to that select's going to actually run that query for us. And this is probably something you haven't seen before. OA select is a data source. It's a database independent way of querying for your objects. Again, it's going to hit your database and bring back select the records, and it's going to bring back the objects, so we don't have to do all that stuff. And we can basically give it a query, and it will handle that for us. You can also use a hub, and internally a hub, what it will do is use one of these OA selects whenever, because hub also has a method called select, so you can select it and give the same criteria. You can give it a query and an order clause and stuff like that, and it will populate the hub with it. The reason why I'm using the select here, and we could use a hub if we wanted to, but I'm using the select because it doesn't preload any at all or hold it into the collection. A hub kind of set up, that's what you want to populate the collection with. and it will lazy load them at 45 at a time. But as you iterate through them, and you only need to see them once and then be done with it, to have to remove it from the collection and all that kind of stuff is kind of a waste. So we can just use a OA select, and it's kind of like a forward moving way of going through all the objects in the collection. So we can basically iterate through each one of these and then go to the next one, exhaust the whole list, and we're done. And then we're going to go off and do these, finish out the 4 of them. But what I'm going to build for this, because based on this query, we know that whatever comes back, we need to send them an email. So here's employee award. I'm going to go ahead and verify. That's kind of a waste because our query should make sure that would never happen. But our email delegate, and then update email is our overloaded method. So all of our emails that we have, basically we say update the email for whatever object we're talking about. Well, in this case, we can't just say update email for employee award. I guess we could if we wanted to, and then it would figure out what to do with it for all of them. That's an idea. And this doesn't exist yet, but I'm going to jump over there next. Where we go. And I'm going to start building this out. So our email delegate, just like our other, it's right here in the code, just like our other delegates that we put under OA, its job is kind of it's a singleton with static methods that do things, or kind of the wording is it offers services for a certain type of object. And again, we're talking about the OA objects, which relates to our model, which comes back to, we have an email object there. Here's a delegate that will basically, have methods in it and functionality for emails. And how I've been setting up all of our emails in our system is kind of the same pattern that we're looking through. So the object has a reference to an email. So again, we did that in OA Builder, the reference that out, add that to the database and everything, of course, and then we go into the controller for that object, so it recognizes when an email needs to go out, and then we call out to the email delegate to go ahead and handle that. And so this is a self-contained place that manages all of our emails from all these multiple different sources and stuff like that. And what's nice about it is we have it contained because we're going to have a lot of emails, which is complicated enough keep track of. Any one of them by themselves isn't that big of a deal, but the complexity is all of them and all the different types and situations that generate them. So we have a nice way of keeping that nice and clean. The other thing that makes it more complex is each program can customize what they want to each one what they want it to look like, and so based on that, again, we have all that code in this one place, and it's kind of a cookie cutter way of, okay, we need another email, here's what we do. They add that to the system, and it's a good process. So I'm going to set that up next and then be back. Okay, I'm back over at the email delegate, and I'm setting up a method that's going to handle emails for the employee award. And I went ahead and set it up so even though there's 4 different types of emails right now that can go out, I set it up so we can just call one method here, and it's going to update anything to do any kind of emails that it needs to. So that way our outside code doesn't have to be specific about what the situation is or even really have to know about it. So we pass the employee award, do some checking here. It checks the program, make sure the program hasn't ended yet. And then the next part that we talked about a little bit already, but maybe this will help it make a little bit more sense, but we need to spend a little bit of time here, is we need to find out which email template or whatever we want to call this needs to be used that was set up for whatever program that this employee's in. Again, that special text, because again you can go in, I'm going to bounce around here a little bit, but if I go into one of the programs like a test program here and set one up, and here's the verbiage I want to have on there, I need to be able to go find this email. Again, if I go onto any program, here's Tektronix. Okay, if I go in Tektronix, again, here's my full list of them. Here's the ones that I've implemented that I want to use in this program. If I click on one, we could see what the verbiage is going to be. So in my program that we're building right now, it has an employee award. It needs to figure out what program this employee's in. Then within that program, it needs to go look at all the email types that have been set up, and we need to find the one based on type that we're looking for. So if I look at the type, again, it has all these different types and stuff like that. So our job here is basically loop around for the first one that we're looking at, go through the whole list of all of them for the program and find the one that's for the employee award notify, because that's the one we're currently working on. There's going to be the 4 other ones as we set those up. And then once we have that, then we'll know what template to use, and that's what we're going to generate. So that's what I'm going to explain next. So this code here is going to go to the stay within the email delegate, and there's a method in here to go find the email type to use that we were just looking at for the program. So I give it the employee and I tell it which type it is, and if you go look at that method, it's going to basically go to the program. The program has a method to go get all the email types. It's going to loop through it to find out which one has the type set up to be, because this is just the number 7, as you can see right here. It's going to loop around looking for the one that has number 7 on it, and that's going to come back and say, here's the email that we're supposed to use. If it doesn't come back, we're going to print out a warning message. It's really not a warning. Well, we're going to log a message saying that there's no email here. It's not going to generate an email for it. Otherwise, let's go ahead and create the email for it, and that's what I want to show next. So now what we have is we have the employee award, employee. We have the actual email template, so to speak, that we want to use. So we're going to send all that information to a method that's in here. I just created a private method just so we can self-contain the code that just handles this one piece of email, this one type of email. And I just copied it from someplace else, and I need to kind of go back and edit it and make some changes for this to fit. But before I did, I wanted to go over something here that I'm not going to use, but it's kind of interesting to see overall how these emails get generated. So we have the template, which is set up in the program, which has special tags so we know where to fill in the information, that dynamically about the employee or whatever they're getting or whatever the email is about. And basically what we have is that's text with it's HTML. So it's really, if we look at the editor for this, it's an HTML editor, and all this stuff we mark it up just like HTML. And really I don't have it. Let's look at one that's already built. If we look at the source code for it, we can go into the editor of it and actually see the source code by hitting that button, and then this guy shows it's HTML. So what's interesting, since it's HTML and it has these special tags built in there, now our code has this text, which is HTML. It can then find these codes, dynamically fill it in, again just a text search and replace type thing within there, and then what it needs to do is actually send that as an email. Well, email can support HTML, so we have a format that we can send as the email itself, the body of the text. Okay, the other thing that goes on, and we don't need it here, that's why I want to discuss this, is we have the text here. That's what this code here does. It's going to go get the text for it. Now what we have to do is actually parse out this HTML so we can fill in those special tags. So there's a component that will do that for us called the OA HTML converter, and its job basically is I can give it HTML text, and I can give it an object as far as like a root level object, and it will fill out any of those tags based on that single object. If I want to, I can give it also other data to go with it. So if I wanted to put, you know, like today's date or something like that, I could do all that, and I would just set those up as name value pairs. Okay, OA properties is a name value pair hash table. So if I needed to go in there and automatically fill that out, I can basically go in and add new name values and put it into this. And if the name was just, say, you know, ABC, and then its value was whatever, then within my markup here or whatever, I could do something like this. And what this would know, and I put a $sign in front of it, and this $sign says go get it from the special properties that have been set up, and its name is ABC. So, and we'll go over this later. There's not a whole lot more to it than that, but there's some conditional. It's kind of like JSP, but there's some conditional stuff that you can do also. It's like if statements and loops and you know, stuff like that. So if we wanted to show something like a list of something based off our object, it would actually be able to loop through those and create a table or whatever type of listing for us by actually having a control structure to do that. So the OA HTML converter has all that capability built into it, and basically with that capability and the fact that it's working with, you know, HTML and CSS and stuff like that, we can create any report that we want. And then we have a component like this component here. This is the editor, but we also have the same component that also works as a renderer, so we could render anything, any report. And then there's print capability and PDF and all this other stuff, so it's a report writer also at the same time. So in this case, we're using all that functionality to spit out some emails, so it's pretty handy. So what this code's going to do is use that converter, run it through that HTML. I'm giving it the object. I would give it any properties, additional ones like we just showed, and it would spit out a pure HTML, you know, string basically, and then and now we can go ahead and finish off filling out all the information about the email, who it goes to and everything else. So I'm going to pause, fill this out, and be right back. Okay. I think I have this updated. I'll run this through here real quick. Again, it's just for the employee notify one, and then we can kind of build on this for the other three. It's going to be called whenever there's an employee award that needs to update. It verifies a few things, make sure the program started. It will then check for the first one that we're working on now, the notify email. If the employee award does not have one yet, we'll then go find out again what the text is for the program setup that it has, and then otherwise it will go ahead and go create it, and that's the code here. So by the time it gets here, we know the employee award, the employee, we know what program it's in, and we know the email type template, I guess, and that's what we talked about last. So we'll fill all that out, and now it can go in and put in the from address. Okay, the from address is set up in the program, so all the emails that go out under this program, again, if it's Tektronix, they're all going to go out and say, you know, from whoever, at Tektronix headquarters or whatever. The subject and all the email information again comes from the program email. This here, we know the to address because it's employee, but while we're testing and stuff, we don't want to be sending any out by accident. So what we can do on our system, is we can go in there and put in a temporary to email address, so all the emails will go to the same address, which again would be in-house, so that only we can see them, and kind of go from there. So that's what this node is here. So what this method will do when we call it is it will bring back either for us to go ahead and use the to address, or it will replace it with a different one. So this is all part of the setup. So if I hold this and we look, go to that code within our setup, and remind me, we can go over it, but there's a bunch of name value type settings in our it's in a resource bundle type thing, but anyway, we can go in there and we can put a demo to email address, and that's basically saying we're in demo mode, we want to always go to this email address, so it's our safeguard. So this will go pull that. And now what it will do is go ahead and create if needed, but this is only called when it's needed, so this code would run. It fills out an email, and remember, the email object isn't just for this type of email, it's for all the other system-wide emails, so all those could be put in one place. It makes our life a lot easier. And it has a reference to the type of email it is. So just by knowing that, we can pull up any email and we know what's going on with it. We know where it came from, what type it is, and we could track it back to wherever it needs to go to without having to have you know, a bunch of extra stuff going on with it. So, but bottom line is it will go ahead and fill out everything. In this case, there's no attachments or anything. A couple of the other emails we do have attachments. That's a little bit more, it's another process that we can talk about later. But this goes all the way through, saves it, and it's in the system. There's another process running in the system. I think it's another controller, the email controller, that's listened for open emails, puts them in the list for the admin so they can go in and say, okay, go ahead and send these. So they can go ahead and verify them first. And later on, if we decide we want to automate that, we could have them set up a checklist or a grid so they can check all the ones that they want to be automated and all the ones that they want to wait in the queue for them to approve, that stuff like that. So the job of the email delegate is create the email, populate it all, save it. It doesn't send it yet or do anything else. Okay, so that's what we're looking at now, and that's just kind of setting the boundaries on what we're trying to do. There is a method in here, again, dealing with emails, because this is the email delegate, to send one. So this is the code that will get called to send any of the emails that are in that table. And again, if it's on a list, the admin user can click on them or click on all of them, and then there'll be a button right there to say send it. Okay, and that's all generated from the model. And this all comes. This isn't generated from the model, but that command is built in that will automatically then call out to this delegate. And this is where it manages how the email actually goes out. There's a OA mail component, and basically it's using Java Mail, and it just kind of simplifies the whole setup and stuff like that. And it has a method to send it through SMTP. And since that's already all been set up, all the SMTP information, we don't have to deal with that here. We just send it with whatever information goes on there. So it's generically sending an email. Our email object, though, has all the data in to fill all that out. We flag it, we save it, and we're done. If we look at go get OA email, its job is, again, it's going to send email. It needs to know what SMTP to send it through, what user password, and all that kind of stuff. That's part of the configuration information, and this is where that gets set up once, so that doesn't have to be reestablished every single time. So the email delegate, again, it's a nice compact place. It's going to grow, but what's nice is as we look at the code, we shouldn't have to sift through a lot of this to wonder what the heck's going on. It's kind of set up to be kind of a pattern way of how it handles things, and it should be easy kind of to cut and paste as we need more. Okay, I'm back to the employee award controller, and I want to finish off all the functionality for sending out a employee notify email. That's basically down here. I want to set up the listener for it. Another thing I wanted to add is that these controllers are set up so it can kind of be server-side code, so it's all processed over there. Again, a lot of these are going to be set up to like trigger driven, and based on, you know, event driven or whatever, and it's set up so that the server will run on the server. So that's nice, because if the event happens on a client computer just because they went in and changed something or did something that generates the trigger or the event, that event still runs on the server too. And since this code only is set up on the server, then we know it's going to run on the server. Anything that it changes automatically gets sent out to all the clients. So as an email is created for one of these employee awards, if somebody goes to that employee award in their client, or if they're already there, they would see that as it's created, it would automatically show up and stuff. So it's interesting how, you know, all that stays in sync. The other thing that's a good option that was, especially in this case, because we have so many custom different emails, is we can set this up to run on a different server and still be in sync with the whole application. In other words, it'll be running in its own space. It could run on the same server, but its own process, so its own Java instance. And the reason why we'll probably want to do that, and again, it would start the server and would also start this email server, or whatever, high-five email server, I guess. And its job would be handling all this code that we're doing right now. That's going to run on the server. We could have it, when the email server starts up, it would run all this code. The nice part about it is if something's wrong with it and we have to, you know, kind of restart the system for the change to go into effect, it would really stink to have to shut down our main system, which shuts down everything, our website, everything else. So one of the plans is go ahead and start breaking out the server functionality into its own instances. Since they all communicate and always stay in sync with each other as far as changes in the objects and everything else, the functionality is really easy to move over to another server without having to do a whole bunch of other ramp up code and communication code and stuff like that. It's already there. So that's something that we need to put on our list to seriously look at as soon as possible, really, because that'll make our life easier when we run into stuff. With all this new code, we're definitely going to run into stuff. Okay, this is my final deal for tonight. All right, back to the employee award controller. When it gets started, something I forgot. We also need to add this to the object controller. The object controller, it gets started with the server. As part of the server controller, we'll start the object controller. Its job is to start all these other the individual object controllers. So it's not in there yet. So we'll have to also add that. But if you look at the code that's already in there to start these other ones, it's the same. And one of the things it will do is it will actually create it, and then it will call it start method. And again, here's our on start. It's going to go through them all, update them all, and we got the other ones that we need to implement. That's what my queues are. It's kind of like my to-do or whatever. But the other thing is we set up the employee award listener, and for the first type of email, the notify that we're looking at here, basically whenever there's a new employee award that's created, I want the code to go ahead and call the email delegate and send out the email and stuff, or create the email. So right now I left this code in here just so we can kind of look at it in case it was based on a property change, but I'm going to go ahead and take it out now just because we don't need it in this case. Some of the other ones we might, but we can get it from one of the other code. What we do need here is whenever a new employee award is created, and add it to the employee. So basically, an employee's been there 5 years, he's given an employee award. So we need to send them the notify email. So based on that event being added to the employee's list of employee awards, again, we can get that event and then go ahead and tell it to update the email. So how we get that is one of the events generated with the OA stuff. Again, this is for any of our OA objects or collections or whatever, is one called after add. So that's called whenever an object's added to a collection. a reference collection or whatever it's going to be. So in this case, we want to know whenever employee award is going to be added to an employee. So what I can do is we can get the employee award. From the employee award, we can get the employee. The employee has a reference to all the employee awards. So what I can do here is part of this hub event, the information that's in there tells me the hub that it's actually being added to. So if I want to know when this employee award is added to the employees list of employee awards, again the hub, then this is how I could do it. So I'm basically saying here, if this employee award's being added someplace else, you know, go ahead and return, because employee award could be added to a different list or whatever, you know, maybe it's a list of all the employee awards for today or something like that. Again, whenever one of the OA objects is added to a hub, it will automatically call the after add event, so that again we can capture that and be able to do something with it. So in this case, we're just coding it, so we're saying is it being added to this hub, and if it is, great. Then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and call in the email delegate the update email for this employee award, which is what we just went over. So again, the scenario is an employee gets their 5-year award. This is going to trigger. It's automatically going to go over there. It's automatically going to have an email created for it. All the ones that are in the system already that hasn't happened for, first time we start up the system, it's going to go through and find them all, and it's going to update them this way. So it's a system startup. We're up to date. As the system continues to run all day long, or hopefully multiple days long, it will be able to update those, you know, as the information changes for that to happen. So that's enough for tonight to kind of get us in the right direction. I'll put this on YouTube, send you an email, but you know all that in the morning, and I'll get the code checked in. So give me a call with any questions.